My name is Andrew White, and I was born November 21st, 1988. Well, I grew up in a household with music. Both of my parents were actually band teachers, so I, was introduced to music at an early age. My mom was very involved with our church, so I was too. I sang in the children's choir there that she directed from an early age, and through high school I continued singing with my church. I was very involved with music at my middle school and in my high school, which, translated into looking for a school at the college level. I think that the first time it really hit me, like I got like a goosebumps musical moment, was my parents took me to a production of Ragtime that, really moved me. It was a very strong production. It was a professional show up in Montreal, and I remember, I think maybe 6 or 7, which was pretty young to go to a show like that, with some pretty serious topics in that. But I was pretty interested in the action of it. There's a lot of fun fight choreography, and there's gunpowder used. But I remember the singing was really, really powerful too, and I think that was probably my first memory. Well, I'm from upstate New York originally. I think I participated in choir at the elementary level. I was pretty involved at the middle school level. I was in a show choir, although it wasn't a show choir like the Midwest does. Cosgrove Middle School was where I was more involved with music. I was in my first theatrical production. We did Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and I pushed the back end of a horse, which was my first stage debut. I was in choir and show choir at the middle school level, and I was in band and jazz band. I was the drummer for the jazz band, which was pretty fun. And probably I was more into the instrumental side of things at that point in my life than the singing. But I did participate in both, and I really liked both of them. Going to high school, I had to make a choice between jazz band and vocal jazz, because they both rehearsed at the same time, and there's no flexibility with those two directors. And I made the jazz choir, but I didn't make the top jazz band, so that kind of sealed it right there that I was going to be on the voice track. And I still participated in bands, but I was more on the choral track, choral side of things after that. We had one mixed choir at our high school. It was an entry-level women's choir, advanced women's choir, concert chorus, and vocal jazz was after school. I participated in the concert choir and vocal jazz, being a male member of the ensembles. I pretty much got the bug at the high school level. I was in musicals, I was in vocal jazz and chorus. My high school director's name was Alan Jones, Mr. Jones, and just a very dignified man. And he would always wear the same thing to school every day, which kind of characterizes him. Just the dress pants, dress shirt, black tie. It was his outfit. We never saw him in anything else. I think he wore a pink shirt one day, and we all just had a ball with that. And he never wore it again. But he taught concert choir, vocal jazz, and music theory. And our theory program was 2 years. It was pretty intense. He was a Eastman School of Music grad, so that was kind of the flavor of instruction I received. I wanted to be a music director in probably 9th grade. My voice teacher, I was receiving voice lessons at the time through my church choir director. He took the youth choir, which is 9th through 12th, and the senior choir, and I signed up for voice lessons with him. So he was another Eastman guy that influenced me a lot, but he kind of said to me during one of my voice lessons, "Why would you want to do anything else than this? This is awesome." And I felt the same way. Well, that college selection process started rather early for me. I have 2 older sisters, and when my second sister went to school, I kind of wanted to go with her despite her being 3 years ahead of me. So I started looking at schools. At that point, I think my mom came up with a big grid of all of the music schools that had this program, and we just kind of filled it in, all the different categories, how many groups were there, what was the vocal jazz or a cappella group situation, how many voice teachers on faculty, and we just put everything on the list. And I came across the school Milliken because of its kind of national reputation. They had just performed at the ACDA conference in Miami. And so I traveled out that way to Milliken, not Miami, sorry, and visited the school first because it was the furthest one away. And I just fell in love with it. I sat in on a university choir rehearsal, and I was just blown away by how great it was. And then visiting schools after that, I just never found something that could hold a candle to it. So that's how I ended up attending Milliken University. Yeah, I stopped doing instrumental work when I went to Milliken. I double majored in performance and education. It was kind of, I fell into vocal performance as a major because my voice teacher was the head of the opera department. And I didn't realize that the vocal performance degree was kind of exclusive classical opera training. I thought it was more of like, do different areas, some jazz, some pop. And nope, it was opera. And that's what I ended up studying in my voice lessons. But it kind of fed my theatrical side. That was exciting for me too, singing roles in operas there. Of course, I was an education major as well, and that gave me exactly what I was looking for. Milliken was great at getting us into the classroom, as a sophomore year, going out and teaching in an area high school, kind of not really knowing what we were doing at all, but having the podium time and then going back to the safety of Milliken and being like, I could have done this better, But you asked about ensembles. I sang with their chamber choir, chamber chorale, I think was the name of it then. It's changed now. But that was with Dr. Guy Forbes, and I spent 1 year in that group, and then I was with the university choir under Dr. Holmes for 3 years. I was the section leader my senior year, and that was exciting. And I sang with One Voice, the vocal jazz ensemble, for 1 year, on top of all of the operas. Being a vocal performance major, we had to audition for every opera, even if we weren't going to be in it. And I think I did at least one production a year. When I was at Victor J. Andrew High School, I taught 4 curricular choirs and I taught theory. The person there, my cooperating teacher, who I won't name here, was rather new and probably shouldn't have had a student teacher. My first day of student teaching, I got to the high school and I found out, A, that he hadn't told his administration that he was having a student teacher and had gone through no approval process, and B, he was taking a sick day. So I showed up to the choir room, which I had visited the choir room once before, so I kind of knew where I was going. But I showed up there, and they had just had a concert, and there was a pile of new music on his desk that there was a post-it note that said, "Have at it, White." So I taught every day I was there, real trial by fire. And I kind of wrote curriculum for the theory class because he really was not interested in that, and he even said, "Next year I'm not teaching this." Once I received my 2 degrees from Milliken, I went and moved back to New York to look for a job. I was planning on relocating there, and ran into the problem that I wasn't certified to teach in New York. There was reciprocity with the state, but I was getting these interviews, and they would just kind of say to me, you gave a good interview, but you have no experience, and you're not certified in this state. We really can't consider you. And so I was kind of, well, what do I do? So after 2 or 3 months of applying for jobs there, I moved back to Illinois and just kind of lucked into this opening at Eisenhower High School in Decatur, where Milliken is located, and sat down with the principal, and he offered me the job right that day. And it was a very strange job interview. I sat down, talked a bit about myself, and he said, "Well, do you want to see the place?" And I took that as this is going well, and he said, "This is where you'll be teaching." And okay, students are coming in 3 days, get ready. So they were also under renovation that year, which it seems wherever I go, there's a renovation going on. Um, but I should I talk about my first job a little bit? My first job was an interesting situation. I was given 2 K-6 general music programs that I would teach in the mornings, and then my high school I had 2 curricular choirs, and then I had an 80-minute block of special education. So that was, which I wasn't certified to teach, and I really had no business doing that, but I did my best, and those kids had a good time. I'm not sure if they learned anything, but they had a good time. Second year was a little better. I replaced that special education class with a women's choir, but it was a really tough gig. I had over 1,000 students. I never learned the names of the elementary students because I saw them for 25 minutes once a week. I just kind of did what I could. Originally that year, I wasn't planning on taking another teaching job. I had auditioned and gotten an assistantship at Mizzou for choral conducting because that's what I anticipated my career, that's where I planned on going. But I heard about this job opening of a full-time high school position, which is really tough to find, a full-time high school choir job that has no other responsibilities at other school buildings or anything. So I just, on the advice of a friend of mine, applied for it, and I was really surprised that I received an interview for it. And then went out and met with the administration and had my interview, and somehow I ended up getting it. My job was freshman women, which was I think there were about 60 in the class my first year. Treble chorus, which was about 45. It was much bigger my second year. And concert choir, I think, was around 85 voices that first year for me. Then I auditioned a jazz choir. And as far as other duties, I had a band study hall that met daily. So I saw those band students for, I think, something like 25 minutes each of those. So I had 2 25-minute study halls. Well, I think the first thing I realized, in my interview, talking about, we have almost 200 students in choir here, and we have such a big, successful band program too. I was just kind of overwhelmed at the first of those numbers because of my tiny little choir program at Eisenhower High School. I think I had 50 when I left there. Just this is a community that really values its music, and that was really neat. Because a lot of times you don't have that in a more rural location. And I found as I went on to hear that the community really supports it. The community is fully behind it. Well, I did a combined piece at my second winter concert, or my second Christmas concert. Sorry, I get those mixed up still. We had a conversation about that piece that I did. Do you remember? I'm struggling on the name of it. Danner? Is it a Danner piece? Yes. It was with brass and percussion, combined choir, and just, standing in front of such a big group of people who were just loving it, is such a powerful thing, and I don't have a lot of instrumental conducting either, so that was a little bit uncomfortable for me, and that was at the middle of my 4th year of teaching, so I didn't really get nervous for conducting at concerts anymore, but I was a little nervous in front of that, And you had asked me some of my fondest memories, being in front of that concert choir. That was it was a bigger ensemble than I've ever worked with anywhere else to this day. The positivity of so many people was really kind of amazing to me, and it sort of changed my teaching a little bit to the more humanistic side. I got into music more on the technical, I like what these chords sound like, this piece is really cool, let's do Whitaker, and being in front of them, kind of made me realize that this is something that I think I heard a lot of different people say in different ways, that we don't just teach music here. We're molding people, And I think that was something I really got from my ensemble, possibly more than I was able to give to them at that point in my life. Because I don't have a lot of life experience to draw upon to delve out to a group of 80 kids, So that's something that really got me. As far as changes in Ottawa, the way things were done here, it was a rather I just want to touch on this briefly. It was kind of crazy how we had a teacher let go, and that teacher ran for the school board to challenge the superintendent, and then the superintendent resigned. I have to say, that was absolutely crazy, and I don't know if I've ever heard of something like that happening before. Did that affect me personally? Probably not, but it was just something different, and it certainly impacted our kids. I had some of my best behaved choir kids getting suspended from school, and that was very strange and very drastic. So I just feel like in my 2 years, that was something that was rather on the different side. Kind of speaking back to how the community was involved in Behind the Music program, we had a tuxedo place in town, Mr. Penguin's Tuxedos, is that the name of it? I had gone to them and just kind of touched base and said, I'm interested in putting, our concert choir, which is our audition group, into tuxedos and dresses. Could you give me a deal on tuxedos? And never really thinking that they would be able to outfit that many people. I mean, we're talking about a lot of tuxedos. And they just said, well, we're happy to do it. It's only a few more tuxes. We've always provided them for the jazz choir, and this is only a few more people. I think it was more like 20 more people, as it turned out, because so they were willing to help us out and just take care of that with no expense. And then unfortunately, they ended up going out of business my second year here, and they made me the offer, we'll sell you these tuxedos at $1 a piece. So we have enough tuxedos now to outfit them for a very long time. And it wasn't a popular choice, putting them in outfits at the beginning, especially for the girls wanted to wear the dresses that they wanted to wear. But I think once we got to a concert and they were all dressed that way, I think a lot of them came on board, and if they didn't, I'm sorry I was in charge, I didn't really have a set goal in my mind when I got here because I really wasn't familiar with the program before I got to the job. So in the beginning, I would say probably 6 months until I had a concert, I was really just learning what the program was, and I was kind of just learning through participating in the program. And I didn't change a thing besides those costumes until I really had a better knowledge of what was already here. My goal turned out to be trying to get every kid to have a musical experience, trying to get every kid to have some growth in their own musicianship and their own singing. I really tried to teach as many individual voice lessons as I could to as many kids as I could. And I saw a lot of that through our participation of the contest, the IHSA Solo Ensemble Contest, where there's a little bit more individualized instruction opportunities for solo singing. It never got to the point where I felt like I got every one of those kids, because there were about 180 singers and one of me, so I struggled to find a way to kind of work on that solo singing aspect, to work on that individual musicianship, and I'm still searching for that, even at my own program now at Romeoville High School. Through NAFME, as it's called now, we did have students participate in a big way with district festivals. They auditioned in October and had a festival, I think, in November for District 2. I was fortunate enough to have students participate in All-State both years I was here, and that was a pretty meaningful experience for them. Going down to Peoria and singing with clinicians, with college profs, and, meeting people from all over the state. That's really neat experience. We did Music Man as our school musical the second year here, and I was recruited to not only music direct, but sing tenor in the barbershop quartet with 3 other Ottawa teachers, which was a fun experience. I'm not sure we ever got to singing how I wanted us to, but it was entertaining, and I think people enjoyed it. Uh, Other things that we did, we went to see Les Mis. I took the choir students up to Drury Lane. That was a fun experience. We took the coach bus and we had pizza at Giordano's, and they liked that. I took almost every opportunity that I could to get that jazz choir out in the community. We went Christmas caroling outside my first year here, which was very cold, but it was a fun, different experience for them. And there's a snowball fight. Cyrano Rayfield. Oh yeah. Yeah, they were both lakes. They had a wrestling meet. Of course, they had a wrestling thing that day, but they ran here in their wrestling outfits with coats over them. Well, we had a lot of Christmas engagements. I would say that we probably did 10 things during December, and we had some other various things. So maybe 15, 20 performances in the year. And that's not including the middle school tour that we did. We did a little recruiting tour in the spring that the middle schoolers really liked, and I hired Camille Galvan. I want to make sure I say Galvan correctly. She came on board maybe 2 weeks in. She was great to have at the piano, and she helped me kind of get through the contest emotionally the first time. That's quite a gig. Sylvia Bowman, just wonderfully helpful. She brought me dinner on several occasions, just kind of wow. Why? Yeah, talk about above and beyond. And she would bring in throat lozenges for the kids. And well, I wasn't planning on leaving my position at Ottawa. I started taking grad school classes at Vandercook in Chicago, and the opportunity to go to Romeoville presented itself, and I was lured by the opportunity to kind of build my own thing from the ground up. And they have financial resources there that really anything you could think of could be possible there. And it was an opportunity to have a kind of a different social environment for me. I was from a more suburb area, and that was kind of what I was more used to. And it's tough to break into it. It's tough to break into a community like Ottawa that's everybody knows everybody. And at my new school, I'm really just trying to build numbers. I started there with 50 kids in choir, and then half of them graduated. So it's a tough thing to recruit people into a new program. It had been 4 different directors in 4 years, that sort of revolving door before I got there. I started with 3 curricular choirs and a class piano keyboarding class that we have in our mini lab, and I have a sort of study hall duty where I just recruit kids into choir. And well, I'd like to build that program up into something that the community is really proud of, and kind of give them something that is already here, that pride in their music program. I need more people in the program to do it, and I'm working to build the madrigal program and the vocal jazz program, and that will be a curricular course this year, which I'm really excited about. We're going to have students participating in madrigals in the fall and vocal jazz in the spring, and they have to participate in the select chorus as well. It's a co-enroll situation, and that's going to be a class offered after school, so they can possibly be in both things. I'm in charge of the musical there, which is sort of a different thing. I had never been in charge, I'd never been in the driver's seat of the whole production. I've always just vocal directed. It's an opportunity that I was interested in trying, and I felt that it went very well my first year there. the year before I had gotten there, they did a production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, where they had 6 kids in the cast, and they had 300 tickets sold over 3 performances. Last year we did Little Shop, and we had 1,500 tickets sold, and I'm trying to grow the cast, which in Little Shop was 20. I'd like to make that more like 50 or 60. So that's a goal of mine at Romeoville too. But it's tough wearing all the hats. As far as feeling the weight of the championships, I really felt the pressure that, man, I better get this thing because people are going to be mad. Something that was also really neat, though, was that both the kids and the faculty, there was a strong effort, and the parents even, there was a strong effort being made to try to not make me feel that pressure, and I thought that was really, it was classy. It was classy that, they didn't want to make the new director feel like he had to do this or even do things a certain way. I remember at my first pop concert, at the end of it, I didn't even say anything about pop concert. Well, I remember saying, because our choir president, Emily Weber, had always been right there to tell me, what did Mr. Amm do, and I made a comment to the audience was they enjoyed that, it seemed like with every decision I brought to my choir officers, they would always say, but you don't have to do it that way. That's what we did, but please do your own way. And I wasn't really excited to change anything because I really felt that, there's been this guy here for 30-something years, he probably did it that way for a reason, and I should at least figure out what that reason was before I change it. The first day in front of the concert choir, there's so many people looking at me. I was just, I kind of had my hands shaking. I was like, all right, kids, we're going to sing now. I'll go to the piano and hide my hands. They laughed at that. They thought it was funny that I was nervous. But they knew that I was nervous only because I cared and I was trying my best, and that kind of set the tone for my whole time here. I just did the best I could, and no one expected more than that from me. So I think it was very much a positive experience. I felt like I was able to do the job. I felt like, that being said, I learned so much from my 2 years here that contributes to how I work with my students now. Really, really tough to leave, and I still get sad about it, and because I'll be working with kids and they remind me of kids here, and it's tough, but there's kids that love to sing everywhere, and as we're discussing in this set of interviews, the program was very much there before me and continues to be strong after me, so.